And Big Biz Show continues. Live from the Loft 100 studios in sunny San Diego, California. Big Biz Show's on there. Great to have you along today. God, it feels so good to be boxing again. But man, I am like old as Moses. My goodness.
Come on.
You know, have you guys done the 8-point get up out of bed yet? It goes like this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now you're up. Great to have you along today. One of my favorite things about this show, not only is the Day Trader Trio, or if you'd rather, Mike.
Meadowlark is the
Or
best.
like Jenny McCarthy. Remember the softball pitcher that struck out like Wade Boggs or something like that?
Yep.
Paul Galvin is the chairman and CEO of a company called Safe and Green Holdings. Their stock symbol is SGBX. You hear me talk about them on my Sully Speaks Money at all platforms. I am obsessed with what these guys are doing because there was a term back in the 90s called vertical integration. And that meant that if you were a matchmaker, you buy the wood company and the sulfur company, right? Now you're vertically integrated and you're owning everything.
Of course.
These guys have created the next generation of that. And the story has been really interesting over the last 6 weeks because we've got the company who's a holding company, which is interesting in and of itself if you are a novice investor. But then there's also the fact that he said he was going to do something, and he did it. Like 2 weeks later, he spins off a company. And in the middle of all of this, which is interesting, is that you are seeing a topic I've been talking about for months now, and that's arbitrage trading and abusive short selling and algorithmic trading, which is decimating the market caps of companies, but I'm not so concerned about the companies. It's the Johnny Lunchbucket who's investing their 401k. Oof. And if you look at the news and you see the amount of lawsuits that are out there, I believe the face of trading stock is going to change very soon. Because you can't sell your house before you own it. You can't sell your car before you own it. But what can you sell before you own it?
Stock.
That's right.
That's right.
And it works like this. I'm going to borrow these shares and sell them the first day. What could go wrong? Now I got the cash and I owe you some shares. And I'm betting on that stock is going to go south, and I'll take the difference.
Yeah.
Well, as a trader of a public company, let's just say you're a market maker. There is a disconnect with what you think is a seamless experience between the guys who trade your stock and the guys who run the company. Up top, they're thinking, of course we wouldn't manufacture shares to sell. Then you go to the traders. How do traders make a living? Commission.
Exactly.
So you're a 31-year-old trader in a bad BMW, smoking cigarettes, eating martinis at 4 in the afternoon, and somebody says, hey, you probably shouldn't do that. And he's like, what do you think you're going to do?
Yeah.
He has no impetus to stop. I'm sorry, I got on a soapbox there. Paul Galvin joins us. Paul, how are you, sir? Sorry that I got on my high horse here, but you and I have been talking about this, and you know how passionate I am about just these guys decimating shareholder bases and just pensions and everything else. It gets to me.
Well, thanks for having me back, and hello to your team and crew. Yeah, it represents actually one of the biggest thefts of ideas and intellectual property in the economy, maybe in its history, because the microcap market is made up of people's first and best ideas, patents, friends, family, money, and then to have companies shorted to a position where other people can benefit from them in ways that are not transparent and not level or fair. It creates conditions that are not conducive to bringing companies to the public. It's not conducive to the protection of shareholders who are, I think, abused in the process. And we fight for our shareholders, and that's why we spun out our development company, because it was being suppressed and suffocated inside our parent company. And so upon the spin out, we own 70% of the NewCo, which is on Nasdaq.
Which, by the way, let me stop.
Yeah.
As we kind of went backwards here, I was going to talk about how you got here and about the spinoff, but let's talk about this. So yes, there's an abusive short selling problem. Pardon me. There's counterfeit shares that are going on whereby unscrupulous traders are bottoming out market caps, which are ruining your employees' pensions, by the way, which are ruining your ability to retire, and also shareholders, the rank and file. Pardon me. But in spite of that, you take an offensive position and you still march your business model down the field with a spinoff. That's brilliant. And at the end of the day, I believe that when the dust settles, it's going to go in your favor. In fact, I've been doing this for 35 years. I know it's going to be in your favor. But let's talk about that spinoff, because that was not only a strategic move, it was a business move in the vertical integration play. It was pretty smart.
Yeah, the story of our development company goes back to pre-COVID, when we were aggressive in making a decision to deploy a COVID lab at LAX airport. We have a great working and supportive board. Pre, post, and during COVID, we produced record revenue from our COVID CLIA lab at LAX, and we used that to aggressively buy real estate under good terms in cash, and created $80 million of real estate value with $5 million in debt. It wasn't being reflected in our current market cap. Our shareholders deserve better. So we spun out the company, kept 70%, issued shares in the new company to registered, literal, actual human being shareholders.
But Paul, I love you being an active CEO. So not only are you looking at the playing field, I'm going to cut expenses, I'm going to talk to my best customers, I'm going to drive the ball down the field, but I'm also acting tactically with respect to growing the business in spite of the bad actors. And there are always going to be bad actors, but just not like we're seeing these days, because there are a number of lawsuits out today that have gone out in the last 6 months that are addressing this. So God bless you for battling back, and regardless of the unfair playing field, you're getting it done. So let's go back and ask the key question, Paul. How did this whole thing start? Because we've talked about your businesses and such, and I want to get to the philanthropy also, but how did the whole thing start? How did you get to here and becoming a warrior for small public companies is what you've turned into?
Not by volunteering. We love our shareholders and we love our staff, and the finances of the company are tied to their financial well-being, and we will fight for them in every instance. What's happening, it's unfair. Values being created and not recognized and taken by others who have no skin in the game and who don't have any courage to play on the field. And so we'll find ways always to find values for our shareholders, and we'll be standing at the end. When
you started out, Paul, you're the founder of the company, and you have 30 years experience in developing and managing real estate and such. And now we have a really interesting holding company that sort of works together in mass to where there's velocity going in one direction based upon the safe and green business model. And now you're here. We're talking about the holding companies that were of the 70s that you didn't see for 30, 40 years, that actually created value and then spun off into separate public companies. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so we also have a manufacturing vertical called SG Echo, and it has up to 1.1 million square feet to be developed or open currently. And the projects that are going to populate that ecosystem, $800 million of it is the development company that's now on Nasdaq. And they'll drive $800 million of revenue through our factories over 7 years. That's not counting new projects or third-party customers. And you'll be hearing a lot of our medical subsidiary named Well City, which has been fortunate to onboard a very talented team, and who are going to innovate and change medicine for the benefit of many in a point-of-care approach, which is to put good care, good physicians, and good technologies where people are and where they're underserved, and you'll get better outcomes over generations.
Hey, so Paul, I told you this morning when we talked off the air that I want you in here for an hour at some point where we can just talk about all the companies, but I do want to spend some time talking about your philanthropy. Because at the end of the day, on a separate lane, we have you're moving chess pieces around, and you're moving markets with respect to what you're doing. Not only being a CEO of this company, but you're also a pretty well-noted charitable guy. Talk about what you're doing, because I keep on getting text messages with you all over the world helping another foreign nation or helping another cause. Talk about that.
Well, right now we have a charity called Cornerstone, who has philanthropic goals that can be achieved using modular technologies in many instances. So we look at modules as technology deployment devices, whether that's for education or health or wellness or literacy. I think you'll see a lot of that. Our first initiative is a school I've been able to support in Ghana, and that school will have a fresh and clean water component, an agricultural component, and a medical component that at some point in the future we're going to be happy to talk about. But philanthropy, for all of us, it's an expression of our values and our gratitude for our blessings.
So talk about, so why the donation? Why the cornerstone? Because I know that's it's deeply meaningful to you. I can see it in your face here. Talk about that.
Precision giving. It'll go right to where it's going, and it'll be open, and I'll make sure.
Well, we're here to put the cause there.
Amazing.
And God bless you for doing that stuff. Last of all, before I let you get out of here, a lot of this was funded with the COVID testing. Talk about that piece of it. You and I have talked about that in the background. It's a grotesque topic to talk about when you're taking advantage of a situation like a pandemic, but if there's a way to do it and better the world for it and better your company, God bless you for doing it. Talk about that just a little bit, the COVID side of it.
Yeah, we took no loans, no grants. We did a for-profit at-risk CLIA lab for people going to the airport's crew and staff, and that we saved our money, and then we used it to buy the real estate to try to create a path of value for our shareholders who weren't necessarily able to see it in the parent company. Most importantly, we've proven that you can deliver high-end, sophisticated medicine anywhere in modules with the right team.
All right, much more Big Biz to come. Sully, Costa, Greg Todoroff, and the DT.